Hello and welcome to Shepherds and Kings. My name is Jacob Trelaw, and I'm the founder of the podcast. If this is your first time listening, or if you've stopped by before, thanks for taking the time to listen. I hope what you hear, either in this episode or in another one, is a blessing, and will help you just take one more step, one more little practical idea towards being the kind of man, the Christian man that you need to be. That's the goal, and finding balance, and really, again, finding our priorities, lining them up according to the Bible, and with the help of the Holy Spirit, being the kind of Christian, the kind of husband, the kind of worker, the kind of father that we need to be. So, again, I appreciate you taking the time to give us some feedback on online, or those of you who have contacted me or saw me in person. I do appreciate that. So, today we're going to talk a little bit about sort of a science fiction concept, which I'm not a huge science fiction fan, but I do enjoy it. I've watched all the Star Wars movies. I've seen some Star Trek, and I've seen some other things. Read some science fiction books, and I do enjoy some of it. But if you are a science fiction fan at all, you're familiar probably with the concept of a device or something, or maybe even in fantasy, there's some of this as well, that is bigger on the inside than it is on the outside. The TARDIS in Doctor Who, if you've watched that, and I've watched one part of one episode, but I'm familiar with what it's about. Or I remember I used to watch Star Trek Enterprise when I was younger, and I remember an episode where they captured a ship, and when they opened the hatch, the ship was bigger on the inside than it was on the outside. And I know that there are other examples through other fantasy fiction tropes as well, but it's just kind of a fun thing to think about, that if that was possible, if you could fit more space inside of less, how that would work. We know, of course, according to physics, real-life physics, that that's not possible. But often we take that philosophy to our lives, specifically through social media. Even before social media, our image-driven world, Instagram is huge. Even on Facebook, unless someone has a picture, we often don't stop and read what they're saying. We are drawn to images. And so, but even before that, it was second nature for us to put up a front. We always want people, and I do too, to think the best of us, and that is understandable. We, as men, we get fancy cars because we want to look rich. We want to look accomplished. We put a massive desk in our office because we think it makes us look powerful. You get clothes from a certain brand because you want to identify with a certain group of people. You attend certain events. You pay more for a certain name because you want people to know that you can afford to pay more for that certain name. And we put up this front. We show a good outside. In addition to, looking successful or powerful, we want to look capable and in control. We want to appear that we have everything under our command. We want to look like we know what we're doing. We don't want to seem like less of a man. We don't want to not know how to do something in front of other men, even though, for the most part, the other guys don't really care, if they're good guys anyway. But that's not how we're ego-driven, and that's not how we work. And so we want to make sure we're putting up a good front. And again, most of us really want to actually be capable and actually be in control. We want to actually know what we are doing. But a lot of men put an effort into how they appear to other men. They work harder at looking successful than actually being successful. They work harder at looking successful than actually being successful. They work hard at inflating the power they have. And again, in certain situations, that's what God did with Gideon. He made him made the army seem much bigger than it was. But men try that all the time on our own. And then when you get close to them, you find out they're not really what you thought they were. You they're not the person that they seem to be on social media. You find out that they're bigger on the outside than they are on the inside. They appeared to be much more than they actually were. They're, Jesus would have called them the whited sepulcher. And maybe not, we're not going to look at that in a sinful way, but they're essentially a hypocrite or a liar. So if a brand name makes you what you are, as soon as you take that brand name away, you are no longer worth anything. If a job title makes you what you are, as soon as you lose that job, retire, whatever it is, you lose that identity. If accomplishments make you what you are, then you're only worth anything to those who value those accomplishments. Not only do people often value accomplishments less over time, but sometimes those accomplishments are only valued by a certain group of people. In today's consumer-driven world, everything is an attempt to boil us down to what we own and what titles we have. We are algorithmed and marketed to by who we are. And social media is also driving us to push something that we are not. Our goal should be like that science fiction ship or house or whatever it is, to be more on the inside than we are on the outside. We want to be more than what we wear and what we do and my awards list. When I talk to certain people, I become more amazed every time I talk to them because I find out something new about them, or I learn some new wisdom because of talking to them. They have more wisdom than they let on. They're bigger on the inside than they are on the outside. They are not just what you see, but they have this depth of knowledge and experience that is buried. They don't. I mean, I'm not saying they don't put up a good front, or they don't appear well, or they don't look well, whatever it is. But that's not what they're concerned with. They're concerned with who they actually are. The Bible in Proverbs chapter 14 verse 33 says, "Wisdom resteth in the heart of him that hath understanding, but that which is in the midst of fools is made known." The truly wise man does not go around throwing his wisdom at people. He waits until they ask and until they can draw it out. Some of us, people don't draw anything out of us. They never find out anything more or new about us because there's nothing to see. Once they've seen your Instagram, that's all you are. Once they see your trophy case of all the awards you earned in high school, they know you. Once they see your Facebook, or they see your bookshelf or your car, that's it. You are your car, because that's where you place your value. So my goal is to be the kind of man that is bigger on the inside than on the outside. So how do I do that? Well, the first thing I want to focus on is building a foundation of what is spiritual. It seems super simple, but if I'm more focused on the spiritual things, I don't really have so much time, first of all, to focus on the outside anyway. We know, of course, from the story of David that man sees the outside and God sees the heart. So it is a temptation for us to care about the outside. And there's nothing wrong with, being in shape and dressing well, having a good job, all of these things. Don't get me wrong. But if that's where I'm spending my time, I'm wrong. If I focus on the spiritual things, the rest of them usually will take care of themselves. I have to focus on what is unseen for the seen to matter. I have to build the foundation before anything else can stand on top of it. So I have to focus on what is spiritual. I have to build the foundation on biblical things. If the clothes that I wear or the things that I post don't serve a purpose, then it's for show. It is bigger on the outside than on the inside. The second thing I know I have to focus on all the time is learning to ignore social pressure to present all the time. You kind of have to, if you're a certain type or a certain person, you have to always be on. You have to always be, and that's how social media algorithms work. You always have to be posting. You always have to be putting some new kind of content out there. And as a business owner or something, that's completely fine. But as just a normal Joe, people are scrolling past your life. They're scrolling past my life. They take a minute to like it to make themselves feel better. And that's it. And so whether it's social media specifically or it's at your workplace that you're valued because of your job title, but you have no character, or there's nothing beyond that. There's some stereotypical things that men at a workplace have to worry about, and we have to get past them. So our goal is to learn to ignore what that pressure is. I don't need to go out and buy a fancy desk because my desk holds paper just like your desk does. And often we get sucked into this, this vortex that we have to have the nicest, sharpest, coolest new thing to impress somebody. Whether it's a car or a purse, I don't know what it is, but we have to ignore this pressure to have more, to do more, to be more, to be seen as more. The third thing I try to do is I try to think and research deeply about a few issues. Now, I'm not saying I know a lot about everything. I know very little about a few things. But there are a few areas where I have tried to become better and more knowledgeable in. So that when someone comes back to me in that area, they can say, wow, I didn't know you knew that too. And I didn't know that you had grown in this area since we last talked. So whatever it is, of course, spiritually, we want to be learning and growing. But whether it's your vocation or an area that is a practically usable area that you can be knowledgeable in, we have to become deeper as people. One of the best examples I've seen is where I think it's maybe artofmanliness.com, which has some good stuff if you want to go check it out, but described the life of Ernest Hemingway as the T-shaped life, where, the cross of the T, the horizontal plane, is his life as knowing and doing all the things that he did. I mean, he traveled everywhere. He did everything. He met everybody and ate all the food. And, that's just the kind of guy he was. But the vertical plane, the down part of the T, up and down, is the depth of him being a writer. And I don't know if you've read his work or not, but either way, he's a well-known writer. And there was an area that he was deep in. And that's how we can live our lives, that T-shaped life. Even spiritually, there are some things where you need to know a little bit about a lot of things when it comes to our spiritual life. But there are some areas that you can go deep in and study that will help you. If you need to study on prayer or study on how to be a parent or on addictions, whatever it is, that if we can put some depth into our lives, we are going to be bigger on the inside than we are on the outside. We're going to be like that wise man in Proverbs that someone says, I'm going to draw this out of them. I'm going to have more than one conversation with him because I'm always finding out something new. And that's a tough thing to be. But let's focus on the inside and let the outside take care of itself. Let's focus on our family and let social media take care of itself. Let's focus on our church and on our ministry and let what people think of us take care of itself. I hope that you can take something from this and learn to live bigger on the inside than you are on the outside. Become that man in Proverbs. Live that T-shaped life and look for balance in your life with the help of the Holy Spirit. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next week.